The first episodes of Jimin and Jungkook were released in the last few days. To be perfectly clear, I didn't watch it because I don't plan on giving it views, but several people who follow my content kept me updated on what happened. Even so, some Jungkook continue to interpret everything from a perspective that doesn't correspond to the facts, as if they don't want to see what's really going on. The first thing shown was the staff picking up Jungkook. Then they went to Jimin's house. At that moment, it became clear that Jungkook didn't know the door password, something that completely contradicts what many Jungkook repeat without any basis. It's obvious he had no idea, because he even asked the staff if they knew it. This simple scene demonstrates that Jungkook has never known that password, and it's illogical to try to justify it by saying that Jimin changed it right before. The explanation is much simpler. Jungkook has never had that information because the company always takes care of opening the door when it's a scheduled job. Just recall the BTS documentary where Jungkook cooked at Jimin's house. The company also opened the door on that occasion. Then another key moment is shown. Jimin calls J-Hope, and he hears Jungkook's voice. He immediately asks, "Are you filming the show?" and Jimin replies that he is. This reaction from J-Hope demonstrates that he was fully aware of the project. And if he knew, it's logical to assume that the other members were also informed, especially Taehyung, who is usually in the know about these things before many others. The members are aware of official projects and know when two members will be together for content purposes. It's not that Jimin and Jungkook are spending time together for personal reasons they want to hide, it's content scheduled by the company, nothing more. Another point that stood out was Jungkook's attitude during the filming. At one point, Jungkook made it clear that what they were doing was work, simply part of the programming and schedule. He didn't try to imply that there was any special reason beyond that. His stance was transparent from the start: film the show, fulfill the project, and move on. Nothing he showed points to any other interpretation. Although some try to insist on theories to support the Jungkook ship, what's seen on screen and what's been known for years remains unchanged. Jungkook and Jimin function as colleagues when the company pairs them up, but that doesn't make every interaction symbolic or profound. There's no real reason to invent a narrative where none exists. For those who support Taekook, these details are not surprising. Taehyung and Jungkook have always displayed a natural relationship without needing to fit into external agendas. Official projects show pairings for work, but the authentic dynamic between them is best understood when you don't try to force something that isn't there. What was shown in the episodes only confirms the obvious. Jungkook didn't know the password, the members already knew about the show, and Jungkook emphasizes that it's work. There are no hidden signals, no changes to the story, just content filmed as part of a project. The facts are clear and need no embellishment. One of Taekook's most memorable moments after their comeback was that BTS Live, which many fans still consider special. There was a distinct energy in the air, something that could be felt even through the screen. Taehyung had just returned from abroad, and the atmosphere between him and Jungkook had that mix of closeness and positive tension that arises when two people who know each other very well reunite after some time apart. They didn't need to say much, their behavior already showed how much they had missed each other. During the live stream, their attention seemed to naturally drift toward one another. The cameras were there, the other members were there too, but at times it was as if Taehyung and Jungkook moved in their own little space, letting the others become, almost unwittingly, spectators of a dynamic that has always been captivating for its spontaneity. The looks they exchanged spoke volumes. They weren't exaggerated or planned glances, they were the kind that happen without conscious thought, showing comfort, trust, and a bond forged over years of living together. One of the most talked about moments was when Jungkook tried to maintain some control over his behavior so as not to draw too much attention, but still approached Taehyung without much thought. Taehyung, for his part, had that natural way of reciprocating any gesture, like when he placed his hand on Jungkook's abdomen, gently but confidently. It was a simple gesture that showed how comfortable they are together. Another significant moment occurred during a live stream when Jungkook mentioned that he didn't plan to return to the military. He said it twice, and his expression conveyed how much all that time away had meant, especially considering what it meant to be separated not only from the group but also from Taehyung. Fans noticed it immediately. Behind his comment was a mixture of relief at being back and a kind of sincerity that needed no explanation. For many Taekook fans, these moments aren't just about gestures, but about the shared history that has been building over the years. They've gone through difficult times, distances, constant work, and decisions that have led them to grow individually and as part of the same team. Military service was one of the biggest challenges, not only because of the physical separation but also because of the change in their routine. Even so, they managed to overcome it and return to a normalcy in which their connection seems even stronger. More than words, what speaks volumes is the naturalness with which they resumed interacting afterward, demonstrating that nothing had been lost. These days, Taekook is quieter in terms of appearances or shared moments, but that doesn't mean anything has changed between them. For fans who have followed them for years, it's clear that the foundation of their relationship remains intact. Sometimes it's more noticeable, sometimes less, but it never disappears. The absence of constant displays of affection doesn't alter what they've built. Many of the gestures they've shared in the past reflect a level of closeness that doesn't need daily confirmation to remain strong. And although fans miss them and want to see them together more often, history has shown that Taekook always ends up showing signs, big or small, that remind us why their relationship remains so significant within the fandom. Although it might seem like a minor detail at first glance, the way Taehyung and Jungkook interact always draws attention. It's not something they do because someone asks them to, nor is it part of a scripted process. It's simply their way of being together. Their gestures, the glances they share, the way they connect even without speaking, show a naturalness that isn't replicated with just anyone. It's clear that this kind of closeness doesn't arise from obligation or professional habit, but rather because that's how they behave when they're together. The difference becomes evident when they're observed in different contexts. Jungkook doesn't act this way with everyone, and Taehyung doesn't reproduce that same level of spontaneity with other people either. That's why, for many fans, it's not just about friendship or simply living together, it's a bond that stands out on its own. Over the years, this silent understanding between them has become something that Taekook fans easily recognize. These days, Taekook appears together less frequently in public. It's not as common to see them sharing public moments anymore, and that might lead one to think something has changed. However, for those who have followed their journey, the foundation of their relationship shows no signs of weakening. Their connection doesn't depend on constant appearances or obvious displays. It's a kind of closeness that remains even when it's not being observed. Over the years, they'd had very distinct moments where the trust between them was impossible to ignore. Those moments left a lasting impression because they seemed to stem from a dynamic cultivated over a long period. They were situations in which any observer could see that they understood each other almost automatically. One of the most striking aspects is that they never seemed to try to show anything. When one sought out the other, they did so without hesitation. When they shared a glance, it had its own rhythm, as if responding to something that others didn't need to understand. And when they were together, it seemed easy for them to maintain a silent communication that didn't depend on explanations. The decrease in public appearances doesn't erase everything they built, nor does it invalidate what people saw before. There are bonds that don't need to be repeated every day to remain strong. In Taekook's case, many fans interpret their past closeness as proof that what they share isn't sustained by publicity, but by a consistency that isn't easily displayed. This way of being attentive to one another has also been seen on occasions when one of them was going through a difficult time. These weren't dramatic gestures or grand displays. Rather, it was about being present and supportive without needing to stand out. When one seemed to lose their balance, the other was close, not to attract attention, but to offer silent support. That's why, even though these moments are less frequent now, those who have followed Taekook for years recognize that the essence remains intact. Silence doesn't mean distance. The lack of public appearances doesn't imply a breakup. What they built seems to be based on something more stable than simply being seen together. And although there are fewer opportunities now to see that connection in action, what has already been seen over the years is still enough to understand how they relate to each other. Taehyung and Jungkook have demonstrated, at various times, that their closeness doesn't depend on validation from others. It's not a dynamic that needs to be explained or constantly repeated to make sense. What exists between them is maintained without seeking attention or trying to make it known. And for Taekook fans, that's precisely one of the reasons their relationship stands out, because it endures even in silences, without losing its naturalness or its meaning.